What's up, Tigers? Welcome back to Tiger Talks. We have a special guest here, Coach Lee. He works on the board to help us, turn this room around with the grant money, and we're just excited to have you on the show today.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me. Excited to see kind of the finished product of the podcast after seeing some of the early process that Coach Tribb went through. So, yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we talk about, coaching and, NFL career and stuff like that, kind of talk us through, how you got into football and, what are your inspirations and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, just outside of there in Bloomington, actually, and growing up, just very similar community, suburb, similar to Fishers, Indiana, and so our neighborhood, a lot of kids the same age, were always out, playing sports, football, basketball, baseball, kick the can, ghost in the graveyard, all those types of things, and so very athletic neighborhood, and at the time just very fortunate, had some friends whose dads were on the coaching staff at the Vikings, Minnesota Vikings, and so it really just got us really interested in the game, and not only watching it on TV, but playing it in the backyard and all that, and just continued going through that progression. Didn't really start playing organized football till about I think 7th or 8th grade. So, which, relative to now, it's a little bit later of a start, right. But I think football is one of those games where it doesn't really matter exactly when you start playing. I think you can get into it and love it all the same.
Definitely. Yeah. So, as you kind of continued, for those who don't know, you ended up going to Dartmouth for your college, and so just talk to us about your college experience there, and how that led to you ultimately kind of getting to the NFL, and just talk to us about your college days.
Yeah, of course. So during my junior year, the summer right before senior year in high school, did the whole summer camp circuit at a lot of different schools. Well, I'll back up. Junior year kind of had my, quote unquote breakout year. So just felt like, playing in college was much more of a reality. Up until that point, it was just more of a dream scenario, right? But then, continuing to work hard and, be a good teammate, all that led to different opportunities. So then summer going into senior year, went to University of Minnesota football camp. Fortunate to do well at that camp, got offered there, and then also went out to Dartmouth to go to their camp. Growing up, parents were always stressed education, right. Which I think for you guys, same situation, and so that always piqued my interest in high academic school, Ivy Leagues, that sort of thing, and so that's why I went out to the football camp at Dartmouth, and they had given an offer before that camp, but really enjoyed it up there. Right. Loved the coaches, the atmosphere, the football program, but it was still kind of a battle in terms of all throughout the senior fall during the football season, where you kind of have those competing forces where, hey, we'll go to a Big Ten school, in-state, and all that, versus, something further away, maybe not as high of a level of football, but talked with a lot of people about not just your 4 years of undergrad, but, making sure you're set up and taking all the foundational steps to have a great college experience, but then also a great professional experience afterwards. And eventually, after a lot of different, battles and, minor fights with my parents, it really ended up seeing the light in terms of, hey, Dartmouth is still and was for me at that time really the perfect place to go to. And from day one, just really enjoyed my time there. I think the best part about it, the best aspect, which I think you guys, next year will learn, is that the people really make your experience. Not only the football, but then the teammates that you're around, all the other classmates, really made it a great experience. And even to this day, about 12 to 15 of my teammates in my class, we still get together every year. We try to get together every year, even 25 years later. This summer we're getting together at one of our teammates' place up in Idaho for his 50th birthday party. So we have like 15 guys going. But in terms of that experience, more football wise, kind of first year we had a down year, but we kept building as a team, which was a great experience in terms of all the things that we wanted to accomplish together, and kind of put that goal out there. Eventually, my junior year, we won the Ivy League championship, undefeated 10-0 season. Ranked back then it was 1AA, it wasn't FCS, and we were ranked, I think, in top 15 or something like that. Okay. But eventually led to other things, which I think we'll touch on. But the college experience, college athletic experience was fantastic, and I really look back on the decision to go to Dartmouth as kind of a turning point. You guys will learn at some point that there's certain decisions that you make that kind of really define your experience for many years ahead, and I think that decision to go to Dartmouth was one of them. But yeah, really enjoy that experience.
Yeah. Oh, my bad. I was just thinking, like, I'm just having like a full circle moment. Just obviously with me going to Stanford, but that wasn't my first choice. I wanted to stay in town, stay in state, and go to Big Ten. And just, my parents, we talked about it a lot and, argued. But, after like a night of sitting on it, it was just like, I'm just not thinking about like my 4 years, but the connections and things like that down the line that will help me be successful if football doesn't work out. So I just had like a full deja vu moment about that.
Right. Yeah. And just really quick, kudos to you, Jay, in terms not only having the great year, the great career, but even as you were breaking all the records on the football field this season, to keep that commitment to Stanford, even in light of they had some things going on there, had kind of a down season, but you and your family really realizing that, hey, you will never go wrong in life choosing a Stanford education experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, it's a pretty inspiring thing, I guess, for both of you choosing to go not just to the biggest popular place, like your in-state Big Ten school, going somewhere out of state, taking a chance, and obviously you're seeing the benefits of that today. But so going back, you talked about your college career, how you had a good season and helped propel you to get to the NFL eventually. Walk us through that, process getting to the NFL and then eventually how your NFL career went.
Yeah. Well, so if, my freshman year of college, if somebody would have asked me about, hey, would you love to play in the NFL? Well, yeah, right. I think a lot of people that, are playing football at any level would love that. But, I think for the most part, it seems like an unreachable dream at that point. And so, continuing to put the work in, put the grind in, or go through the grind, and we started to have team success, which continues to breed individual success. Sophomore year, got more playing time and started the full season, and then similar to high school, the junior year was quote unquote my breakout season. Different individual accolades from a national standpoint. And then at that point, leading up to that point, my dream related to professional football was to be an NFL general manager at that point. And just because I always love, or continue to still love, not only the on-field aspect of the team and football, but also kind of the business side of it and constructing a team. It's kind of like your real-life fantasy football draft, right? And so that I'd always try to get internships in the summers, in college, but it's always a tough time to do an internship because you got training camps and then you go right into your own college season. But that was kind of my dream. And then fast forward to junior year, had the pretty good year, and then all the national scouts and team scouts start coming through, and they're always asking and even to this day, even more so now, I mean, if you can play no matter what level you're at, if you can play, you have, all the measurables and on-field skills, they'll find you, right? I mean, teams put so much money into scouting that they'll find you. And even at a school like Dartmouth, Ivy League school, had the opportunity, so the scouts come through, and then so you have the spring pro days and all that, and kind of got on the radar at that point, and then went into the senior year, similar type senior year and all that. Was fortunate enough after the season to get invited to a couple All-Star games, the Blue-Gray All-Star game, which is no longer a game now, but it was in Montgomery, Alabama, and then the Hula Bowl, which was in Maui. And then the NFL Combine, of course, here in Indianapolis. And, kind of going through that experience, it just opens your eyes, right, to how big the NFL is and how detailed. And, they're looking under every rock, and, all the kind of the stories you may hear when, now they televise the Combine, right? So you kind of get the behind the scenes look, but, where you're going, all the team doctors are checking you out and you're doing all that stuff, x-rays and all that, as well as all the on-field stuff. And then, of course, you have all the psychological testing, the team interviews. So it was a major grind back then. It was 3 or 4 days of just major grind. And then moving on, unfortunately didn't get drafted, but went free agent right after that to the Chargers, and kind of just led to a few years after that.
Great. So and then after your NFL career, you kind of got into coaching. So some notable schools, obviously Holy Cross, and then also you coached on the Bears for some time. So just kind of talk to us about how you were able to kind of switch from player to coach, and what that looked like for you.
Yeah, sure. So as I just mentioned a little bit ago, my dream was always to work in a front office. And so after I got done playing, so this was about this year, 1999, 2000, was still working out for different teams, and then at the same time working outside of football up in Chicago, and just out of the blue, got a phone call from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, their front office. Luckily, the assistant GM at the time at the Buccaneers was a Dartmouth football player, and so he kind of always followed my career a little bit, just in terms of me going to Dartmouth 25 years later. And then also just going through the combine, the draft process, being around football, that helped, as well as one of the assistant coaches on the Buccaneers staff was a family friend. So guy named Monty Kiffin, he was a defense coordinator at the Buccaneers under Tony Dungy at the time. And so when the spot came open down there, my name popped into somebody's head, fortunately, right? And that's kind of just the craziness of football, right? In terms of the NFL, right? It's just the right time and right place to get into certain situations. But they called me up, went down for an interview to work in the pro personnel department, got the job, and so was down there for 3 seasons. And at that time, I thought I kind of understood and realized how crazy the business of the NFL can be. But when I was in Tampa, that was eye-opening. So what I mean by that is, my first year, 2001, down there, we had a decent season. It was a 9-7 season, right? Made the playoffs. And unfortunately lost to the Eagles, and that was the third straight year that the Bucks lost to the Eagles in the wild card round. That was like the Donovan McNabb years. Andy Reid was there and all that, and so even though Tony Dungy had really kind of brought that team back from the rubble, out of the ashes, and they had perennial Pro Bowlers, Hall of Famers. Their defense was one of the best in the league at the time, but 3 straight playoff losses was too much for the owners, so they let him go, right? And obviously, as you guys probably know and remember, is Tony Dungy eventually comes up to the Colts, right? And then he makes history up here. But so down there after that, we go almost like 2 months without a head coach because they were trying to get Bill Parcells as the head coach and all this. That didn't work out, and then and eventually they trade for John Gruden, and they trade a bunch of draft picks as well as like $8 million. So eventually John Gruden's our head coach just out of the blue, and then go on that year. We win the Super Bowl that year, right? Had a great defense. I think it was ranked 1 or 2 that year. Guys like Simeon Rice, Derek Brooks, Rondé Barber, John Lynch, so many guys, so many really talented defensive players, as well as John Gruden brought kind of a really awesome, fantastic offensive system, and guys were just playing well that year, win the Super Bowl, and then fast forward to the following season. Since John Gruden was considered the savior, the head coach at that point, winning Super Bowl his first year, he gets a lot of power in the organization, and really, he was butting heads with the general manager at the time, Rich McKay, and so Rich McKay eventually leaves, goes to the Falcons, and then when there's changeover like that, either at the head coach level or general manager level, it's not good for people kind of under that person, right? So it was time to look into different places, and so that's how it ended up going to the Chicago Bears on their coaching staff. So went from scouting to the coaching side, and that was at the time it didn't seem like as big of a decision as it does now, just looking back on it. But it was a good situation to go into. It was a new staff. Lovie Smith was the new head coach at that time, and there's different connections from the Buccaneers to the Bears at the time. So, and then spent five years up there, different roles. Unfortunately, didn't win the Super Bowl that we played the Colts in 2006, February 2007, I guess. But coaching in terms of making that change. Once if you love the game, but also love kind of the strategy of the game, the X's and O's, but then you also like, working with people and, coaching them and just really trying to take a player from point, A to point Z, making them better on the field, making them better off the field, teaching the game, all those things really made the coaching experience a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you don't mind me asking, who was the quarterback on the Buccaneers when they won?
Brad Johnson. Yeah, so Brad Johnson, he was, longtime vet.
Yeah.
But so you talked about the your NFL coaching, how you were there at the Bears for a little bit, and then now you're your safeties coach here at Fishers.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of led you to that? And
yeah, sure. So after the Bears, then got out of football, worked in corporate America for a while, which we relocated from Chicago down to Indianapolis in 2013. Eventually got back into football 2016 with USA Football, which is downtown Indianapolis. And then the year after that was my year at College of Holy Cross out in Boston. And then, as you guys know, and a lot of people know, the coaching life is crazy in terms of hirings and firings and all that. So, our head coach at Holy Cross, who was an assistant coach at Dartmouth a long time ago when I was there, he was let go during the middle of the season. And so we're looking at different coaching spots, but we had a young family, all that, that seemed like the right thing to kind of stay here in Fishers. We had already been living here for a few years, and so at that point, young girls. We had 2 daughters. One's a junior here at Fishers now, and then one is class of 24, graduated last year. And so I'd coach their soccer teams and all that, and eventually they stopped playing travel soccer, which I'm sure you guys know, travel sports nowadays.
Yeah,
and parent of a travel sports kid, you're all over the place. There's no time for anything. But once they stop playing, then have the time really to be able to give back in another way, in terms of a coaching way, and so since I knew the ADs here, Coach Seymour, through the soccer teams and everything, then he had initially said, "Hey, would you be interested in helping out eventually?" And then just through some other just connections to the Fishers football team, eventually talked with Coach Funk and said, "Hey, love to volunteer, help you any way possible. Now that I have more time and already have been following the program and obviously want to see Fisher sports do well and beat HSC every year possible."
Yeah.
Before we move away from the coaching topic, one thing I noticed this year, all our linebackers, their mentality changed. Like ever since you came to our school, like they're more disciplined. So like, what's something that you tell them? What's something that you like really stress on them?
Right.
Yeah. So I think. So I think a lot of young players will believe football is only a physical game, right? In terms of how fast you run, how strong you are, and of course those things matter, right? But I think the mental part of the game is even more so, because Pop Warner at lower age levels of the game, the physical traits will help you dominate, but at the higher level you go, everybody's a good athlete, right? And college, it's all the better football players in high school. Then you go to the NFL, it's all the best players of college, and so on and so on. And so all the physical talents start to become more equal, and at that point, you really. Becomes a mental game, not only during a game, but leading up to that. Everything you're doing in practice, in terms of, we always work on knowing the call, knowing the defense or knowing the offense, whatever, the offensive play, the defensive call, per the formation, knowing your alignment, knowing your stance. Before the ball snapped, there's so much before that point that is going to dictate, if you're able to make a play or not. And then, if you have all those things down, then you're just allowing your physical talent to be able to take over. And so right away, that's something that I stressed with those guys in terms of the outside linebackers, really just the fundamentals of the game. I think, and even all the way through, that's something, a lot of people will ask me about when we were at the Bears, and at the time we were considered one of the better defenses, and we had guys like Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs, and a lot of times people will think that coaching in the NFL, it's all about just, just the most exotic blitzes or the most exotic offense plays and just all that type of stuff. But, when we were at the Bears, we stressed fundamentals more than you could ever imagine, right? And the same things I just talked about: alignment, stance, basic, whether drops, those types of things, more so than worrying about the actual exotic blitzes that we were going to bring. Tackling was a huge fundamental that we always stressed, and but yeah, getting back to your question, that was a big thing that I always try to stress to those guys is know what you're supposed to do, and allow that to allow your physical talent to take over after that.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I think that's all we have for you. You know, we want to thank you for being on the show, and thank you for, you know, being a contributor for us to be able to turn this room around and be able to, you know, do this with you. So, you know, thank you for being on the show.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys having me. And I'll just touch on one thing in terms of the grant process, because I remember Coach Tribb had talked about that. And so in terms of the Hampton Southeastern Education Foundation, which I serve on the board this year. Last year was my first year. And what we do, so we're just a nonprofit organization made up of, there's 4 staff members, and then about 25 or so board members. We actually have 8 student board members. Okay. So 4 students from HSE, 4 students from Fishers High School, and different community members as well. And we're around to be able to support all 22 district schools, from elementary school all the way to high school, as well as the district academy, and we're having all sorts of events throughout the year. You know, Mudsock football VIP tent in the end zone at at each school, the Mudsock basketball VIP event, as well as a few other things, and then in terms of how we're able to support the staff and the teachers in the district and the students too. But the one thing we have is the fall Grand Patrol and then the spring Grand Patrol, and the fall Grand Patrol is what Coach Tribb had put in paperwork for, and I mean that's almost like doing a college application. I mean, it's a long thing that Coach Tribb spent some time on, and what the committee is looking for is projects, different ways that teachers are trying to introduce innovative, creative ideas to really propel students in any way possible. And so there's been a lot of great grants that have gone out over the years, and obviously this being one of them. So like I said before, it was great to see kind of the front end of the application that Coach Tribb put in, as well as kind of the finished product that you guys are taking and running with. So, but again, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's it for this episode. Tune in for more.